Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Gray here. Thank you again for another great week. I have a few announcements. First, this last week on Wednesday, the 21st, we had a district art session, and it was really fun. The kids did a great job. You can ask them all about it. They did a really cool project where they marked up a piece of string, sprayed the string with water, and then used that to make a design of some kind, and then drew on top of that for whatever inspired them based on their design. They kind of completed the idea. It was based on something they've done before called Beautiful Oops. This coming week, Wednesday the 28th, we have a different art which is called Meet the Masters. So instead of having artistic topic, they have an artist that's the actual inspiration for the work and study that they're doing. So that'll be really fun, and that's on Wednesday the 28th. The second thing I want to tell you is that PTA sent this out, but there's lots of great ACE classes at Santiago Hills. If you're looking for something for your kids to do after school, definitely check that out. The next thing is the science gradebook announcement. On my updates page, there is a link. It says science gradebook. And what is happening is there's a change in the science gradebook happening this year. You can read all about it. You can email me if you have any questions. But essentially, the science grades are changing to standards-based grading. So there'll be some standard the kids are trying to get to, and the teacher, either me for a couple of the grades, or mostly the science lab teacher, will grade it on a 4, 3, 2, 1 scale. And based on all of those 4, 3, 2, 1s, the kids will get an A, B, or C. So it's a little bit different. If you get a 3, it doesn't count for 75%. It counts slightly differently, and I think that's outlined there. So there's nothing really to worry about that. It should go smoothly, and there'll be easy communication with both me and the science lab teacher, Mrs. DeMarco. But just know that it's slightly different. We're trying to work it out and figure some things out. That's happening across the district. So Mrs. DeMarco is on top of things, and she's trying to start it right away. But the district is asking elementary school science teachers to do that at some point throughout the year. And so Mrs. DeMarco's, I think, doing the right thing, getting on top of it now. So we're not changing things halfway through the year. So that's great. Final announcement. The PTA is looking for someone to represent our class as a room parent, as to have an official room parent that PTA can contact. So I'm opening that up. If you're interested in that, please let me know, and I can pass on your information. It's definitely possible I'll use you as a room parent for something throughout the year as well. But if you're interested in supporting our class in that way, that's really fantastic of you. Thank you. And I'd appreciate it, and you can just let me know by email. The last announcement is a bunch of things came home in your Thursday folder yesterday. Try to ask your students to bring the Thursday folders back, and like I said at back to school night, you'll probably get that every other week, about every 2 weeks, because just not enough paper is ready for you every week. There's some grades in there, both from a week or week and a half ago, and also from just this week. So definitely check those out. If you have questions, send your students to ask me about their grades, and I can give some feedback, or of course we can chat about it anytime. In Reader's Workshop, the kids are working on a couple things. The main thing we've been talking about the last couple weeks is trying to identify theme. So we've been looking at that in a couple different ways. We're practicing in a book that I'm reading aloud, and the kids are practicing in their own book and taking notes in their reader's notebook. So if you have any questions about what they're doing, just ask them, what are you working on in your reader's notebook? Tell me what themes you found. So we've been talking a lot about, what themes are, what they look like, what they sound like, how to find them, themes that repeat in different stories. But next week, we're kind of wrapping up that idea officially. We'll come back to it throughout the year, of course, both in writing and reading. But we're going to wrap it up. We're going to have a theme quiz where the kids will read a story and have to identify a theme and also talk about a theme from their own independent reading book. They'll also do some work where they make, creatively make just a page. They'll just have one piece of paper, and they'll have to talk about, say what the theme is in their story, give some evidence from their story, direct quotes that show you that that's probably what the theme is, as well as a little bit of an explanation. And the final thing we're working on is group discussions. So the kids have partners, and we've been working on having rich discussions, what that includes and what that looks like and what that sounds like. So the kids will actually have kind of like an official discussion assessment, and the partners will grade each other. And they will get a grade for that, but it will not be based on, the partner having, a bad idea about something. It'll just be based on how they participated in the discussion. So there's a bunch of stuff happening in reading next week, but it's all about theme and discussions about their books. In Writer's Workshop, now that the kids have published their first narrative, they're going to get that grade back at some point next week and use that feedback to help guide them going forward in their narratives. The second thing we're going to do is the actual work of next week, that they're going to be drafting another story, perhaps a second or a third. They're going to actually be working on that draft, and we're going to do a few things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the deeper meaning of the story. So the kids are going to hopefully choose a story that has some kind of meaning that I can pass on, and we'll connect that to theme in reading, because sometimes that's what that looks like. The second thing we'll do is talk about planning out or revising your story using a story arc. So not just having no plan, but using the idea of a story arc to plan out your story or to revise it, making sure you hit all the important parts of a story arc. And finally, we're going to talk about adding scenes from the future or scenes from the past from your story. Now, this can be done as like a flashback or a flash forward. Those are very common in TV shows and lots of books. So they're going to add like a flashback or a flash forward. And ideally, we're going to reach for a time where that flashback or flash forward helps illustrate the meaning of the story. That is asking a lot. Many students will not get there, and I know that's something that happens in sixth grade too, but that's the idea. So you could imagine a story where someone is trying to overcome some obstacle, and they will have a flashback to a time in their life where someone inspired them, or someone showed them that they could do something, or someone believed in them. And that flashback, that idea, is going to help get them over the obstacle they're facing right now. So that is a way that a flashback or flash forward could help illustrate the meaning of the story. And again, that's a really big ask of students in fifth grade, but that's kind of what we're aiming for. That's what we'll be talking about. But if kids are getting a deeper meaning in their story, they're illustrating a theme of some kind from one of their small moment true stories, that'll be very impressive. In math this week, we have a couple of things happening. So number one, we're wrapping up our division or dividing fractions unit. So we worked on some addition, subtraction, and multiplication of fractions. We moved on to dividing fractions. We're going to wrap up our fractions with a couple things. First, we're going to look at word problems that work on adding, subtracting, and multiplying fractions. And then we're going to move to word problems for dividing fractions. So this week, the focus is going to be on word problems and identifying what to do when it's not just an equation written and you're trying to find the answer, but you're actually caught up in the world of a word problem and trying to figure out what is the correct operation, what am I trying to do? And then we'll take kind of a final fractions assessment. It will have pieces from the quizzes we've had so far that are just operations, but it'll be largely focused on the word problems we studied throughout the week. In social studies, we have finished studying our chapter on the first Americans. I can tell you there's never enough time for all the things that we want to do, and I wish we had some more time to get into the history of Native American tribes and their differences and to celebrate some of their achievements. If possible, we will revisit that throughout the year, but there's so much we need to cover. We're going to move on from now, although we got to do a little bit of that. So we're going to wrap up this first chapter. We're going to do a little bit of review work in a partnership or in a small group where the kids both review for the test and make their own test based on some qualifications. Essentially what they're going to do is they're going to determine or rank the most important information from the chapter and use that to create their own quiz. So that is going to be both how they review and how they're kind of wrapping up and pulling out the most important information. They will also have a final test next week, and both of those things will be graded. And soon after that, we'll move on to the next chapter, which is all about the explorer. So we're moving from pre-Columbus to now European explorers are coming to the New World, and who are these famous people and what are they best known for at that time. No science next week other than science lab with Mrs. DeMarco. We usually have some extra time for science and some other things. Now all is going to get cut short because the kids are giving their first speech next week. So we call them chit chats. You might have heard about it. The students have to memorize memorize a 3-minute speech. They're trying to figure out how long their writing has to be to make it on exactly 3 minutes. You should hear them practicing. They should practice to you. They can practice to the dog or cat. They can practice to brother or sister. But throughout the week, they should be practicing. Now, some students are going on Monday, some on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the students who go on Monday this time don't have to go first next time. And so, the order kind of switches around because it's nerve-wracking to have to go first. But if you go first this time, you never have to go first again. So some students are presenting on Monday. Hopefully hear them practicing this weekend. They also have slides that go along with that, and they'll be presenting to the class. So I'm sure there are some nerves about that, but I know that they're going to do great. They've been working on it, and as long as they're working hard on it, I'm sure they're going to do fine. So as always, like I said, thank you for a great week. It's been great to see everyone in conferences. Conferences for me are wrapping up next week, but please remember, anytime you guys have questions, send your students to talk to me, or of course, you can email me at any time. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.